Imagine coming home from the most magical week of your life. Your honeymoon, suitcases still full of sandy clothes, hearts still full of that newlywed glow. And you open the front door of your home and smell someone else's cooking and hear the TV playing in your living room. And then she walks out of the kitchen, apron on, wooden spoon in hand, like she lives there, because apparently she decided she does. That is what happened to a woman we're going to call Maya. And I promise you, by the time this story is done, your jaw will be on the floor. Because this isn't just about a controlling mother-in-law who overstepped. This is about a husband who knew, a house that was redecorated, and a marriage that nearly didn't survive the second week. Stay with me. Because this one is unbelievable. All right, let's set the scene. And this is where the story time really begins. Maya was 29 when she married Daniel. By all accounts, Daniel was the guy. Thoughtful, funny, the kind of man who remembered your coffee order and your mother's birthday. They'd been together 4 years before he proposed, and Maya said yes without a single hesitation. But there was always one thing that quietly nagged at her. Daniel's mother, and we'll call her Patricia, was not a woman who believed in boundaries. She called Daniel every single day, sometimes twice. She had opinions about everything, the apartment they rented together, the food Maya cooked, the way Maya organized her own cabinets. Patricia never said anything outright cruel. She was far too smart for that. It was always dressed up in sweetness. Oh, I just worry about my son getting enough protein, that's all. I only suggested the curtains because I know a good deal, honey. Classic. You know the type. Now Maya talked to Daniel about it, more than once. And Daniel, to his credit, would always nod, say he understood, have a brief conversation with Patricia. And then absolutely nothing would change. It was like talking into a void. But Maya loved him, and she told herself that Patricia was just an anxious mother. That it would settle down, that once they were married, once they had their own home, Patricia would finally understand that Daniel had a new family now. So they bought a house. A real one, with a backyard and a guest room and everything. They got married in September, a small, beautiful wedding, and the very next morning, they flew out to Bali for 10 days. 10 perfect days. And then they came home. Let's talk about the red flags. Because looking back, Maya says they were everywhere. She just didn't know how to read them yet. The first one came about 2 weeks before the wedding. Patricia called Daniel while Maya was right there in the room and asked, very casually, whether the guest room in the new house had its own closet. Daniel said yes. Patricia said, "Oh, good, good." And then changed the subject. Maya thought nothing of it. Guest room, closet, fine, whatever. The second red flag came during the wedding reception itself. Maya overheard Patricia telling one of her sisters, "I'm just so relieved Daniel won't be alone anymore." Alone. As if the previous 4 years of their relationship hadn't existed. As if Maya were a caretaker hired to keep her son company, not his wife. But again, wedding day. Maya let it go. The third flag? Daniel was unusually insistent that they not check in with anyone during the honeymoon. "Phone's down," he said. "Full disconnect. No calls home, no social media, just us." Maya thought it was romantic. It was not romantic. Because here's what was happening back home while they were watching sunsets in Bali. Patricia had hired a moving company. She had arranged for her furniture, her bed, her dresser, her armchair, her boxes of belongings to be brought to their house. She had a key, because Daniel had given her one for emergencies. And she let herself in, directed the movers, unpacked her things into the guest room, hung her own curtains, placed her own toiletries in the guest bathroom, and she rearranged the kitchen. Maya's kitchen, the one Maya had spent weeks organizing. Patricia decided the layout wasn't efficient and moved things around. Pots and pans, spice racks, even the silverware drawer. Now, how do we know all of this? Because Maya eventually got the full story. But on that first night home, She didn't know any of it yet. All she knew was that when they pulled up to the house, there was an extra car in the driveway. She looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at the steering wheel. And something cold moved through her chest. She said, "Whose car is that?" And Daniel, her husband of 10 days, said, "Listen, I need to tell you something." And here's where this story shifts from uncomfortable to absolutely devastating. Because Daniel didn't find out about this when they landed. He didn't discover it the way Maya did. He knew. He had known before they left for Bali. He had approved it. Let that sit for a second. His mother had come to him weeks before the wedding and told him she was having financial trouble. Her landlord had raised the rent. She couldn't afford her apartment anymore. And rather than talk to his soon-to-be wife, rather than have the adult conversation that needed to happen, Daniel had told his mother she could move into the guest room temporarily while they figured things out. He just didn't mention it to Maya. Not before the wedding. Not during the wedding. Not during 10 days in Bali. Not one word. You know, I've read a lot of Reddit cheating stories and betrayal confessions over the years, and I'll say this, cheating with a person is one kind of pain. But this kind of betrayal, the quiet, calculated kind, where your partner makes a life-altering decision about your home and your privacy and your marriage and hides it from you completely, that is its own unique wound. Because it tells you exactly where you rank. Maya walked into her house, and Patricia was standing there with a dish towel over her shoulder like she'd been there for years. She smiled and said, "Welcome home. I made dinner." Maya turned to Daniel, and she said, very quietly, "You knew." Daniel started talking immediately. Fast. "It was temporary," he said, "just until his mom got back on her feet. A few months, maybe. She needed them. He didn't know how to say no. He should have told her sooner. He knew that. He was sorry." Maya walked back outside. She sat on the front step of her own home. The home she'd picked out, signed papers for, painted rooms in, and she cried. Not loudly, just that deep, silent, shaking kind of crying that happens when something breaks inside you and you don't quite have the words for it yet. She called her sister. Her sister said, "Get back in that car." Maya didn't get back in the car. But she also didn't go inside for a long time. Eventually, she did go in. She was polite to Patricia. She ate the dinner. She said almost nothing to Daniel. And that night, when they were alone in their bedroom, she told him exactly what she felt. She said, "You didn't just let your mother move in. You lied to me, by omission, through our entire engagement and our honeymoon. You let me come home to this, and you made that decision for both of us. That is not a partnership. That is not a marriage." Daniel cried. He said he was scared she would say no, and then his mother would have nowhere to go, and he couldn't handle being caught in the middle. He said he loved her. He said he'd fix it. And Maya looked at him and said, "You've been in the middle your whole life. And you keep choosing the same side. So what happened next?" Maya did not leave that night. She thought about it. She has been honest about that. She thought about packing a bag and going to her sister's. But she decided to stay and fight, because she believed that what she and Daniel had was worth fighting for, but only if he was actually willing to fight too. She set terms. Clear, non-negotiable terms. Patricia had 30 days to find alternative housing. Not 3 months, not 6, 30 days. Maya would not share a bathroom, a kitchen, or a dinner table with her mother-in-law in a house that she owned and had not consented to share. She also required, and this is the part I respect most, that they start couples therapy immediately. Not eventually, not when things calm down, immediately. Because Maya understood that the problem wasn't Patricia. Patricia had simply walked through a door that Daniel had opened. The problem was Daniel's inability to be a full partner in his own marriage. Daniel agreed to everything. Patricia was not pleased. She made comments. She called Maya cold. She told Daniel that he was being controlled. Classic deflection. But Daniel, to his genuine credit, held the line. For the first time in his life, it seemed, he held the line. Patricia moved out in 3 weeks. She found a smaller apartment. She managed. They kept going to therapy. It took Maya a long time to fully forgive him. She said that publicly. Not because she's cruel, but because trust, once quietly dismantled, takes real time to rebuild. There were months where she'd open her kitchen cabinets, still reorganize the way Patricia had left them, and feel that cold feeling all over again. But she eventually reordered every cabinet, put everything back where she wanted it, and she said that felt like reclaiming something important. So here's where I turn to you. Because Maya made her choice. She stayed. She fought. She set boundaries and watched to see if Daniel would finally choose her, and slowly, painfully, he did. But not everyone would have done that. And honestly, no judgment if you wouldn't have. Some people would have walked out that first night and never looked back. Some people would have said a marriage built on that kind of lie, before it even really started, is already broken. Some would say Daniel proved he could change. Others would say people like Daniel never really do. So I want to know, what would you have done? Drop it in the comments. Would you have stayed and fought? Or would that betrayal on the first day home from your honeymoon have been the end of the road? I read every single comment, and this community always brings the most thoughtful takes. And if you're new here, if someone sent you this video or the algorithm finally did its job, subscribe to Confession Verdict. This is where we unpack the most emotional, shocking, and complicated Reddit stories out there. Real situations. Real pain. Real decisions. We don't judge, we just dig deep together. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next confession. Because trust me, the next one, you're going to need to sit down for it.